are wrestling fans, and we are the degenerates that like to talk about it. This is Kicking Out of Two. I'm Michael. With me, as always, is Tori. Hey, Tori.
Good evening.
Been a long time coming, but we got some news to talk about. We're going to start off with Keith Lee talks about his near-death experience in his AEW run. So he did a an interview with Grapsody. Keith said that the Keith Lee that left was not entirely of what he sees as himself. He wants his new look and vision to represent a middle finger to society and companies that tell you need to look a certain way. Lee said he did about 5 or 6 weeks of in-ring training before returning to the ring from his near-death experience. He said it was the most effort he's put into his in-ring return, and he's never really needed a ring to get ready to come back. Said a lot of physical feats. He's done. It's like landing on his feet in a monkey flip attempt was something he's not trained for. He just does it. He also has never trained to do dives or do moonsaults. He just does it. He called his AEW run a bit of an experiment that has been interesting, intriguing, educational, to experience something way different than where he's from. He was a bit in character and said that Swerve Strickland is evil, but the odd part is that he still loves the guy. He also mentioned he was training Muay Thai with JD Griffey. He said he also said that Rick Ross promos were in one take. And the interview for this full drops on Friday. So if anybody wants to see the whole interview, that'd be kind of nice to look at. What do you think of his return? It's an odd character.
It is. It's an odd character, and it's. I feel like his AEW run has not been the greatest. Yes, they have the tag titles, but it still was kind of eh. And it was really predictable where it was going. And I think that's my biggest problem is just the predictability of everything. And now we're doing this feud with Swerve, and he has a match Friday with Dustin against Swerve and Parker, and they busted out another stupid fucking Naturally Limitless. I'm done. Stop it. Stop it. What the fuck?
I didn't catch that. That's awesome.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Like, why do we have to name everything we do? Jungle Hook. Hookhausen. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. What are we doing? Like, why is this a necessity for somebody? You won Booker of the Year. Do better, Tony.
That's a whole other thing.
Yes.
So another thing that was brought up in the news is Brock Lesnar's WrestleMania pitches. So apparently Omos was not the first idea.
Okay.
Some of the other ideas that we had was Bray Wyatt, Gunther, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Really?
Apparently from reports from Fightful, Stone Cold was actually the first one contacted. This was back in I think or August of last year, trying to see if he could prepare for that. Stone Cold turned it down. He didn't want to do it. And so they went through a couple of other options as well. They thought about Gunther being a good spot for it because a Gunther Brock thing would be kind of fun. Having him and Bray Wyatt was obviously something that's been thought of because of the promo that we saw already. It leads us now, though, after all of that being scratched and put aside. Bobby Lashley was also, and it's not specifically stated, but I think obviously we know that could have been something they threw in there. So that leads us to where we are with Omos. The current plan for WrestleMania is him and Omos against each other. It has not been confirmed who pitched that match. However, it was confirmed that Brock Lesnar did personally approve the Omos match.
Okay.
whether it was a Vince suggesting an Omos match or whether it was Triple H coming up with the match himself. Either way, Lesnar has approved it. Um,
I think this match is going to shock people at how good it's going to be.
I completely agree. Like it's one of those like
I could be wrong and
I,
it could be stinking pile of garbage, but I feel like it's going to be a good match.
yeah. Lesnar's always been good at doing matches with bigger dudes. It's always kind of the smaller ones. There's a couple of outliers for that. His match with
Right.
AJ was really good. His match with Daniel Bryan. But it's because I think he respected what they did in the ring more and thought he could have more fun with it. Unfortunately, we had situations like what he did to Kofi. Was
I I almost guarantee that was not Brock. That was not his call.
I don't disagree. I'm not saying that that was Brock,
I'd be willing to bet if you
but
asked him in an interview, "Hey, the whole Kofi 30-second match," he'd have been like, "Oh no, I wouldn't. I didn't do that." There's no chance he took it.
WrestleVotes had implied on Twitter and later said the information to Fightful as well that Vince McMahon was involved with pushing for that match to happen. That has not been confirmed internally, but sources close to Lesnar, or at least as close as sources can get to Lesnar, have indicated that that could be true. Which here's the thing. I have said before that I don't want Vince in creative. Now, if Vince are one of the people in the front of the line that is just kind of throwing out some ideas every so often, I'm fine with that. Because here's the thing. Over the years, the booking as a whole have been crap, but there have been gems. So if he can just throw out his ideas and Tripp kind of filters those through and goes, okay, I like that one. Let's do that one. And this would be one of
Absolutely.
those that if Vince said, I want Omos to face Lesnar, I'd be fine with that.
Right. If somebody said, "Hey, it was Vince's idea," and if it starts with Vince and it goes through their creative process and we still get it, I'm like you. I'm fine with that because Vince isn't doing it. He just threw the suggestion out there. Like there's times you throw stuff against the wall, see what sticks. I mean, it's like our podcast. We're making it up as we go.
That's my
But
entire life.
so
Um,
I'm good with that, but keep him out of the room. Take the
yeah,
suggestion, but take the suggestion, get all of the information from him for it, and keep him out of the room.
yeah. So speaking of Vince and sometimes doing some great things, Xavier Woods and Big E were doing an interview here recently on the Busted Open podcast,
Okay.
um, and they were talking about the 2019 uh, interview that Kofi had with Vince in the middle of the ring. I don't know if you remember that one, but it's where he dropped the famous line of "You'll never let someone who looks like me be the
Yeah.
face of the company." Um, we talked a lot about that. Um, I'll go through just a couple of quotes here. So Woods reflected on the segment and what it meant for people of color. That it was incredible because everything in the industry is so cutthroat. I don't know how many times we've heard, "Oh, you guys should fight each other. You should turn on the New Day and be bad." That story has been told so many times in wrestling. 10 out of 10 times, that's what happens. Get the chance to tell, not only tell this story, brotherhood, but what we got to do with those real feelings and real. This story was amazing, perfect. Like I think quite often, more so than I like to admit, I like to go back and watch that gauntlet match. The one where Usos bowed out because they wanted to give Kofi the chance, but to have your two brothers fight in a gauntlet match, not for anything for them, not to get them a title shot. It's not for
Yeah.
them to get some gold. It's for their other brother to
Yeah.
be able to go to WrestleMania and get some gold. Um, Such an amazing thing. Um, Woods also Woods talks more about that of how there's uh, I was a grown man crying at WrestleMania of different races and religions hugging. That's what wrestling is supposed to be. When we actually give time to stories and let people build houses in different ways and don't just do the same thing year after year after year after year, we give people something different. We get to do something different. That's what this is. The art at the highest form, the whole Kofi Mania situation was that in perfection. Um, Big E talked about the storyline too. I'm not going to go through his whole transcript. The thing that really caught me about what he said in this um, is he was talking about how the storyline didn't even necessarily just have to do with race. Like, obviously, that was the undertone. The undertone was Vince would never let an African American be the face of his company. But he said with it being Kofi, it was kind of that perfect storm because Kofi's a smaller guy. Kofi's a lanky guy. Kofi's also an African American. So there's so many things that just by that statement of "you'll never let me be the face of this company," there was so many things that encapsulated so many people, not just
Mm-hmm.
African American people.
Right.
Say, "You'll never let a smaller person be the face of this company. You'll never let a skinny person be the face of this company. You'll never let a black man be the face of this company." Just how perfect that was because it was talking about these grown up feelings and these grown up thoughts and these grown up conversations without specifically saying it, letting that undertone sit there.
I I remember that promo, and when he said that, I was like, "Mm-hmm, get it, because you're not wrong. You're not wrong at all, and we all know it. We all know it." Brian Danielson was a fluke. AJ had a resume that you can't argue with,
Right.
regardless of his size. But other than that, show me a little guy that's held that title that's mattered
Well, and
since
so I
Eddie.
want I want to call that out specifically because of this. Kofi was an anomaly because Kofi started in WWE.
Mm-hmm.
Kofi will probably end in WWE. Brian was popular because of his story.
Yeah.
Started on the Indies,
Yep.
fought tooth and nail,
Yeah.
studied under William Regal, did the
Mm-hmm.
NXT game show crap, and
God, it
built
was
his way
so
up through
good.
there. Started outside of WWE, building his name, and because
Mm-hmm.
of that, he got backing from the crowd.
Right.
I'm gonna talk about another name in a second, but you brought up AJ Styles. AJ Styles started in a small company, and
Carried it.
to uh, to borrow a statement, Triple H started in a pissant company and
Yeah.
ran that shit,
Yeah, he did.
but
Carried
then
that shit.
left there, got to the top, and I think that talk about his resume. I think that
Yeah.
what happened. If he would have, because at the time that the WCW buyout happened, he was with WCW.
Yeah.
He was in a tag team with Air Paris, if I remember right, partner yet.
Okay.
Um, if they would have picked him up right there, I don't think AJ ever becomes world champion
Nope.
because he
I
gets that
agree.
ceiling in WWE. Same thing had
Yep.
happened to Kofi. Kofi
Yep.
has had that ceiling of never going to get above that spot. The only reason he got to that spot is because you had Woods, Big E, doing a groundswell of look, he has been here. In fact, actually, this goes well with a quote from Big E. Um, he has been absurdly consistent. He's healthy. He's been one of the best human beings you'll ever meet. He's been professional. He does everything the right way, and he's done it the right way for 15 years. And it took him a decade to finally get that title opportunity. Just a title shot, an opportunity. It took a decade. That is insane.
I'm just gonna say it. If he was white, it wouldn't have taken that long. I'm gonna
You get
say
the
it. I don't
opportunity?
care.
No. Yeah.
No, no, he'd have gotten that opportunity before if he'd have been white because it's Vince. Period. People can hate me for it. I don't give a shit. It's fact. It's fact. Look at almost every person of color that's been on that roster.
Yep.
There are exceptions. The Rock was an exception. But once he left the nation, what happened to him? They became a joke.
Yep.
I mean, you
Well,
put Owen Hart in the nation. Like,
and even after the nation, if you think about it, so you have this badass strong man who then
mhm,
becomes sexual chocolate, which
yeah,
he was wonderful in that role. I don't want to
absolutely.
degrade what he did,
But
but
no one's
like you
taking
made
that
him a
seriously.
joke.
Yep.
Elo started doing like the European champion stuff.
With the chest protector, nobody took him seriously.
Um, Everybody else kind of fell through from that.
The
The only one that
Godfather.
really had any, yeah, Godfather turned, yeah, he turned into the Godfather, which again,
But nobody took it
nothing against
seriously.
that gimmick, but nobody took that
No.
seriously. He wasn't going to be a world champion at any point.
They put him with
Um,
right to censor. Nobody took him seriously there either.
yep. And then you paint symbols on Ron's chest and make him an acolyte. Nobody
Yeah.
even knew what the freaking acolyte was at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Took him and JBL getting in Vince's ear for them to stop that gimmick and do different with that.
And they got the APA out of it, and they got tag title runs, but Ron didn't do it by himself. I hate to say that.
And I
And
agree.
I'm not going to dispute the fact that him and JBL was an amazing tag team. I hate JBL, but that the APA was some of the most entertaining shit. But every with very few exceptions, he was black. He wasn't going to get there. He got to the point that he had no choice. When the fans started that, because it started at the Rumble and just built from there, and then we had the Elimination Chamber, and his showing in that was crazy. And then you kept throwing these things out, and they just kept the fans just you couldn't argue with the fans at that point. As much
Yeah,
as
the
Vince
fans
ignored the fans,
wouldn't leave it alone.
right? But no, had Kofi been white, he'd have had a title shot probably in the first 5 years.
Yep. Now
He'd have had
it
it after that feud with Randy.
yeah.
Because
Well,
that feud with
that
Randy,
depends. That depends on if you believe the rumors of Randy kiboshing that because of
I don't buy that at all.
a missed spot.
I don't buy
But
that at all. But that feud with Randy was peak Kofi. You could have
absolutely,
absolutely, even if he didn't get in the title, you could have put him in those matches.
yeah. Well, and to me, like he would have been perfect for a here hold this at that point.
Yeah,
Give him the
absolutely.
title, give it to him for a month, have him lose it at the next pay per view. Fine, but
He still would have
to
had
get
it.
him out of where he was in, out of that little section of the mid card that he was in, up to the main card, that would have been a perfect time to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I still love that story. I still go back and watch those matches every so often, just because
Yes.
like that was some fun stuff, and the story they told, I love the New Day story for that specific reason, because they've already said they're never going to break up, they're never going to turn on each other, because it's a different story. And I agree with Woods when he says that. If you think about that, that's where it always goes. Unless they're a lifetime tag team, you think like the Road Warriors,
The Heart
um,
Foundation.
Heart Foundation, but even those types of teams in the modern age, the Dudleys have turned on each other, the Hardys have turned on each other, Edge and Christian have turned on each other, and
Yeah.
these were teams that were like that was the whole point. They were
Yeah.
fighting for tag team supremacy their entire life,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why they were a tag team.
Edge and Christian. I think you said them.
I
But
did.
yeah, I just you had three. I mean, the Dudleys was one of those that they got so well known in ECW, you couldn't argue it. It's kind of like the AJ. Their resume spoke for itself.
Yeah.
Putting the titles on them and putting them to those TLC matches made sense. the Hardys made sense. Edge and Christian, it made sense. But I mean, let's just be honest. Devon's the only minority there, and it's the same thing as the APA. It's Vince, and that's part of why I love seeing what they've done since Vince is gone.
Well, and like to say Devon, like to me, that's a great example because look what happened when they split them up. They split them up in the draft, which fine. I'm like you split them up
Right,
in the draft. They don't turn on each
right,
other or anything. It's just we're gonna put them on separate shows, see what happens. Okay, I'm good with that. But you got Bubba who stays Bubba. He's just Bubba Ray Dudley,
yeah.
and you get
Reverend Devon
Reverend Devon
with Batista, and that's how we got the introduction to
Deacon.
Batista. But it was
Yeah.
so stupid. Again, you wouldn't, and I people are going to complain about it, and I don't care. You would never have done this to a white guy. Vince would have never done it.
Yeah, I agree.
So
Did you know that Dax Harwood has a podcast?
yes,
Did you know that he's probably going to get canceled for having a podcast? Um,
no.
Dax gives no shits.
Oh, that's true.
Um, I have heard some of his podcasts and I've heard some of his things he talks about on his podcast. Now, what
Okay,
normally happens is like you um, have Bruce Pritchard. He does a
okay,
podcast, right?
okay.
What does he not talk about on his podcast?
AEW.
Current stuff behind the scenes.
Okay,
Anything. We're not talking
gotcha.
about
Okay,
anything about
I
today.
gotcha. I gotcha. Gotcha.
Um, Dax don't care.
Oh
So
God,
he decided he wanted to talk about lovely thing, Pinnacle. And he said that the Pinnacle was DOA because of one person thought he was bigger than the entire group.
Max.
And he decided just to throw that out there. So um, he said, I wouldn't have joined it. That's what he would have changed about that because he was doing this episode with Matt Coon, which is his sidekick on there, and they're looking back at his Pinnacle run. He said if he would change anything about the run, he wouldn't have joined. That would have the one thing he would have changed.
Okay.
Throughout the review, Dax pointed out examples of how MJF took center stage in promos and matches. When it was announced that FTR's podcast would be covering the Pinnacle, Sean Spears just tweeted #DOA and the eyes emoji.
I love
Dax
Spears.
reacting to that tweet on the podcast says Spears is going to get more heat than I am. Thank you, Spears. You took some of that away from me. Spears is finally branching out and understanding how good he is, that he doesn't always have to keep his mouth shut if he doesn't want to. The group was DOA because I think one person in the group probably thought he's bigger than the group, maybe, and probably felt that this was just designed for him, maybe. Maybe he wasn't the only person that thought that. I didn't think at first we thought that. At first, someone, and maybe a couple of other people outside of the group too, felt this was a vehicle just for him and them. We felt us and Wardlow, I say us being me, Cash, Spears, and Wardlow, felt that if we all worked together, we could all get over and we could all get each other over. Obviously, Max was going through the main event guy winning the world title thing. We all know that. We felt everybody could benefit from this group and in turn benefit who we individually worked with. In turn, benefit AEW's business. It just didn't pan out that way. So
I don't generally listen to podcasts, but I might have to go back and listen to this one.
yeah. Um
I
I
I
I
love the
like listening
fact
to
that Dax
podcasts where
is
they
like,
just
I don't
don't
give a
give a
fuck.
shit. Yeah.
Right? Dax don't give a fuck. He's proven that.
Yeah. I'll catch Eric Bischoff. I'll catch Bruce Pritchard. I'll catch them every so often, depending on what they're talking about. If they're talking about something that I was really into, then I want to know the behind the scenes of what that was about.
Right.
Um, I listen to Road Dogg's podcast because Road Dogg just don't care.
Right. He's been fired. He don't give a shit.
Like he still works for the company. He just doesn't care anymore.
No.
Um, But like listening to Eric and listening to Pritchard, like there's a lot of like I don't remember, I don't know, like a lot of dancing around subjects. And yeah, I like the podcast where they don't dance around it. Just tell me it
Right.
like it is. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter. Like I want to know what happened. Um so he also said, just kind of as a little side piece here, FTR is currently on hiatus from AEW, but they are open to return before April.
Why before April?
Just that's all he says. They're open to a return before April.
Hmm.
Who knows what that means? Because April is kind of an interesting time to say. You really want to
Right?
dig some stuff in there. Um,
Huh.
so we talked about the legend that is Tyler Breeze. Um, that being a joke for those that haven't heard, he is considered a legend in the new WWE video game, WWE 23. Um, they've changed some ratings. So I like that they've done this because it makes it kind of fun. So originally, Rhea Ripley was rated as 79. Now you have to keep in mind, though, when they started building this game, it was WrestleMania time last year. They
Okay.
were building it. So, all right, if you look at her year last
Okay.
WrestleMania, I get it. She wasn't top of the card. She was just kind of,
Fair enough.
I get it.
Fair enough.
Um, there was a tweet that Xavier Woods sent out, and it was a video of him on the phone. He goes, look, I'm not the guy in charge. I don't know why you're asking me to do this. It's not something I can do. You need to talk to someone who's in charge of the game. Dom, I can't do anything about it. Oh, what? Oh, you did talk to somebody high up. Oh, okay. Well, then, yeah, that's who you needed to talk to. All right. Well, I'm glad we got that done. They bumped her up to a 90. just,
Should be. They should.
but it was just a fun little segment. It was really nice. Um, I like the little things they're doing with this. They also posted a new thing today. It's a big art piece, and there's little hints in that piece all over it of who's going to be the DLC for this year. They've already uh, kind of deciphered it. Some people wonderful on the internet,
Mhm.
smarter than I am, that the Divas title is going to be in it. That Bray's definitely in it. Um, was Bad News Barrett's going to be in it.
Is
Quite
Harper
a
in it?
few of the divas. What?
Is Harper in it?
Not that we've seen yet.
Okay. I definitely think they
I,
should put him in. I'd love that.
I don't disagree. I think that would be more in Amanda's court than it would be theirs. But I don't want to say like they should put him in because maybe they've tried.
That's true.
Because we
That's
had
true.
we still have the issue to this day of people would love to have Owen Hart in the game, but
Martha won't let him.
Martha's never going to let them. Um, that. But now to the reason that we wanted to do some news anyway. Um, last night there was an amazing promo from Miss Gigi Dolan that blew my mind. Um, I was a fan of Gigi Dolan during this whole toxic attraction thing. It was just something about her. There was something about her that stood out from those three women for me. And it could be the red hair and the fact that I'm attracted to crazy. That could be it. I don't know. However,
Uh,
um,
you might want to be careful saying that if she ever watches this. You were married to her.
she never listened to me when we were married. She ain't listening to me now.
That's
Um,
a fair point.
um, but Gigi Dolan, she goes out there to do an interview. Um, First of all, when she comes out, she's got her own Titan Tron now. However, it's still the Toxic Attraction music. She immediately yells for them to cut that music. This is the last time you're going to hear that crap. Um,
Sort of.
Ironically enough, we hear it at the end of the interview too. We'll leave that alone though.
But
She's
we
not the one who
understood
said
her
play it.
point. Right. We
Yeah.
understood her point.
But Gigi comes to the ring and discusses JC Jane's portrayal of her. She noted that she has dealt with life altering changes her entire life. Dolan stated that she learned who she really was. She brought up her challenging background, including her relationship with her mother, and said Jane barely knew what she had been through. Told Jane to bring everything she had next week. Dolan also vowed to put a final nail in the coffin of Toxic Attraction. Uh, some of the things that she said in this were just heart wrenching. Because she
She
talks
talked about
about
her
how.
she talked
Go
about her
ahead.
mom abusing her. And I was just
Yeah.
like, "Oh my god." Like that is such a personal thing.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I am here for it, calling out abusers and making those things not the stigma they are. I am 100% here for it. But to use that in a wrestling promo?
Yeah. I mean,
Whew.
it was just amazing. Like she says before she gets too deep into it, she talks about how I was with you girls because I felt like it brought out a chance for me to deal with my inner demons, and it was fun to play the bad girl for a little while. But I think back and I think back to when my mom used to beat, and it was so bad that I finally decided as a teenager I brought up the strength to run away and show my brother that we could escape it, make it here in the WWE. Freaking
I
broke me, man. That broke me.
right? I was watching this I was just so shook by it. I was shook by it because that is not something easy to talk about, first of all.
Yeah.
And she said she promised her brother she was going to make it so that they would never have to deal with that. Like, oh my god.
Yeah. It was absolutely insane. Um
Uh,
I loved the promo. I mean, I could obviously nitpick some stuff as far as like the delivery of it. There was a lot of yelling and screaming. I personally think this would have hit harder as a package rather than an in-ring segment. If they just recorded her talking about it like
Fair
alone in the
enough.
chair,
Fair enough. Yeah.
maybe with a little bit of coaching along the way of like how to deal with some of those emotions. Um, but like in itself, great promo, great stuff said in it. It definitely puts you behind her.
It
And
definitely sets
so,
her apart.
yeah. So having that segment was definitely something that is good for her. Um, if you haven't listened to it, by all means go back and listen to it. It was a great
Sh-
segment.
Shout out to Brian because I didn't know about it. He said, "Did you see that promo?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he sent it to me, and it was somebody watching it, commenting on it, and I'm just like, "Shut the fuck up! I'm trying to watch this promo." Um,
Leave me alone.
right? But I was just this to me. This is the top five promo in the last couple of years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely, this is a star-making promo. This is like one of the first big promos Max did. Like this is a star-making promo.
Yeah, if they keep her in this trajectory, I think she will be just fine.
Hmm.
Um, I I do hope they're going to keep her in NXT a while. I'd like to see her run it down there. And obviously, she's been a tag team this entire time. Get her some
Get
single
her some
work in there.
singles. Yeah, I definitely think when they're ready to bring Roxy up, that this is a perfect person to take the title off her.
That could work. Or just because Roxy's the face, have JC take it off, and then we
Gigi
get
beats her for it.
GG and her for the title. Um, but either way, like it's definitely it's good for her. An amazing promo that I did not expect. Um, I thoroughly when she first started the promo, I thought we were going to go down the normal rabbit hole of you stab me in the back, and I've had people
Right,
do that my entire life, and just vague and all that, and then she like brings up
right,
like my mother used to beat me. Oh shit.
right.
Uh,
We're gonna chunk that promo you're used to out the window.
Yeah,
Here's some real shit.
yeah. Which I love that. Like you and I talked about the Danielson promo from this last episode of Dynamite. How I love how he just throws real stuff in there. To me, that's what you should be doing. Like they say it over and over
Absolutely.
again that the best character is you amped up to 11.
Turned up to 11.
Yeah. So use your own stuff. Like if you
Yeah,
have something that you can pull from and connect with the crowd with, do it. Absolutely do
absolutely.
it.
Absolutely.
And good on her for being comfortable enough to talk about it.
Yeah,
That's
no, like I said, I'm here for talking about these things, getting these stigmas off of things like mental health and abuse and calling people out. Like, can you imagine like if her mom is still alive and she knows people, like those people going, "What was that?" Like she
yeah.
has to, you know what I'm saying?
Yep. And now
So,
like the that sets up so much that they could do for her
mhm,
and make her even more real.
I agree.
You can bring in her brother. Her and her brother can have some segments together just talking about it. And then like if that's something that she's passionate about, like you have all of these like wonderful charities that you can have her now be a part of
Yeah,
and be a champion for because of her story.
yeah.
This there's so much you could do with that. But that's our news though. Like we end on that note because that's what started it all. We wanted to talk about that particular promo and just gave us an opportunity to go ahead and bring up some news while we're doing it. But that wraps us up. Thank you for spending your time with us. If you're enjoying this podcast, please support us, share this episode, share our channel with others, follow and hit us up on all the socials down below, including our TikTok. To catch the latest from us, you can follow us on YouTube at Kicking Attitude. Until next time, I am Michael. This is Tori, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye.